journey to 50K by hitting that sub box in the bottom right, it would mean the world to the growth of this channel. Gerald Lewis answers my question by predicting the Mavs in 6 against the Clippers, going on to say he'd be surprised if Kawhi stays after this. Thanks for the great take, Gerald. The question for next video shoutout is coming up. Obviously, Chris Paul's shoulder injury has been detrimental, but that, including the high-powered offense they're up against, is starting to get to Phoenix. Whether it's in ISO situations, pick and rolls, or transition, the Lakers have been utterly frustrating the Suns. So much so that when LA was running away with it in the final minutes of Game 3, the final minute actually, Devin Booker pushed Dennis Schroder mid-flight. Schroder let it go by doing some push-ups afterward, while Booker was ejected for the flagrant 2, and Crowder's ejection came a few seconds after that. Luckily, Anthony Davis was there to stand up for his guard. Here's what the Brow had to say about the cheap shot from Jay after the game.
Can't happen. Can't do that. I mean, they've been chirping it's playoff basketball, but you don't push a guy out the air like that, 2 hands. It's a dirty play. Dennis could have really got hurt right there. You know, we keep it in between the lines. You know, we never want to, and I know Monty, you know, he's not that type of coach. I mean, he probably going to say something to him, but my coach for 3 years, but, you know, that just can't happen.
It was the 4-time first-team All-NBA player's second straight game of dropping 34 points in this series, and despite suffering an injury scare, Davis battled through the pain to own any Suns defender in his path. It's great to see Anthony proving people wrong for saying he wasn't himself this year, and his recent domination is a scary sight for other West contenders. The biggest story to come out of LA's Game 3 obliteration, though, was King James starting to figure out the Suns' defense, with the big penguin Andre Drummond mimicking his every move. LeBron torched his former teammate from Cleveland in the post. Crowder's actually been doing a good job on James this series, and Jay's one of the better wing defenders in the NBA. He's held LeBron to under 21 points per game so far. However, on this play, where he tried to press up on the King to deny him the ball, he went just a tad out of his element, and he paid the price for it big time.
This has become personal between these two. Cleared out. LeBron wants Crowder. Shot clock to 7. Spins off of him. LeBron hangs. The reverse is good.
Absolute showtime from James, who may not be dropping the biggest scoring lines, but he's still been very efficient in this series. He's posting 9 assists and 2 steals per game, which makes up for his lower than usual 20-point per game scoring average. Game 3, though, was a clear indication that LeBron's ankle is doing a whole lot better. He may not be at 100%, that's clear, but he's still the best leader in the NBA. And until someone comes to take the crown from him, he still holds the title as the best player on planet Earth. This was the man who went to 8 straight finals last decade and easily won the title in the bubble last year. Maybe the longevity is kicking in, but the way LeBron takes care of his body continues to be revolutionary. He spends the time and money on his physical strength like no other athlete. Say what you want about the man, but he's fought through a ton of injuries this year, yet he's still on the floor giving maximum effort. While Chris Paul's injury is devastating, tragic, and unfortunate, AD and Bron have had to fight through setbacks themselves. They're still on the floor beasting, so we have to pay homage to that. In terms of the supporting cast, 3 players stood out to me. Dennis Schroder dropped 20 points, 4 dimes on 6 for 11 shooting. Andre Drummond had 8 offensive rebounds while having the 3rd best plus-minus on the team. And the center rotation of Drummond and then Marc Gasol off the bench while sitting Montez Harrell has been a recipe for success for LA. Gasol's floor spacing at the 5 spot, with Big Spain finally knocking down his jumpers, has been an absolute blessing. And for realizing this and benching Harrell, who's incapable of spacing the floor out with his jumper, we have to give big-time credit to Frank Vogel. He could have said, "I'm not benching Harrell because of his ego and contract," which would have been detrimental to LA's floor spacing, but instead, he gave the playoff experience veteran Marc Gasol another shot at it, and it's paid off. Also, some big-time credit goes to Montez Harrell for accepting this decision with class, and he could very well play in other series going forward, but Gasol is just a much better fit for this particular series. Along with Seep's form, The main factor that could end this series rather quickly is the Lakers' swarming #1 ranked defense coming to life. The Suns' #1 scoring option, Devin Booker, shot just 6 for 19 from the field, and it's how the Lakers kept him locked down in pick-and-roll scenarios that neutralized him. After the Suns' big sets a screen, the Lakers aren't doubling like Monty Williams expected him to, but instead, Frank Vogel's keeping the guard on his back and dropping the big to around the top of the key, and that's stabilizing the pressure that D-Book's trying to enforce on their defense. After Phoenix stunned everyone in Game 1, the Lakers have figured them out, and they're running the perfect defensive sets in order to keep their young guns under wraps. So, how do the Lakers match up with other top contenders? As of right now, their biggest threat in the Western Conference seems to be the Utah Jazz, as Donovan Mitchell just got healthy, and he, Rudy Gobert, and a deep cast of talent are going to be a problem to beat. Mitchell can get any shot he wants, as he's proved throughout his playoff career, and he's got plenty of support offensively. Meanwhile, on the other end, the shot-blocking fiend and multiple-time Defensive Player of the Year, Rudy Gobert, has the potential to lock down Anthony Davis, which could be a concern for LA, because the main key to beating this Lakers team is stopping AD. I know Jokic and the Nuggets, even without Jamal Murray, are very dangerous, but I'd be surprised if there wasn't a Lakers versus Jazz matchup in the Western Conference Finals. Let's say LA gets past that Utah Jazz team for the sake of conversation, then they'd have to play either KD, Kyrie, and Harden, one of the best big threes of all time for the Nets, or Giannis, Middleton, and Holiday of the dangerous Milwaukee Bucks in the NBA Finals. While we can trust the Lakers to an extent, and I expect them to roll through the first 2 rounds of the playoffs, from the conference finals on, they're going to have to raise their game to a different level. LA's capable, but it's not going to be the same walk in the park that the 2020 playoffs were. Ultimately, I see the Lakers getting back to the NBA Finals for the 2nd straight year, but for next video, shout out, why or why not will the Lakers make the NBA Finals? This was D-Flow, you're the best for sticking around, and I'll see you next video.